Dude, I
Uh,
seriously can't thank you enough for hopping on, man. How's everything been going, brother?
I'm hanging in there, with the old pandemics and stuff. It's a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, same for the media where I'm out covered concerts, probably 50 to 75 a summer. And so I went from February of 2020 in Vegas to just a couple weeks ago without a concert. That's 7 months. Quiet Riot came to my neck of the woods, and I thought I'd have to break down the barrier sometime, and finally made it happen. Man, it's been rough. It just sucks. There's just no other way
Yeah.
to put it.
Hopefully this starts back up soon. We'll
Well,
see.
you're in Austin. You're in Austin these days, yeah?
Yes.
So what all you got going on these days? I know you did a
We're
lot of
actually
session
playing.
stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing this thing called Spasmatics. It's like an 80s cover band thing, and we're playing we got shows in Houston, Corpus, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. So we've been playing about 2 shows a week. We didn't have any shows in April or May, and I think we had like 1 or 2 shows in June, and then it started picking up. And this month, if everything goes as planned, November we have 3 shows a week, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday of every week. So we'll see if that happens. But
That's awesome.
yeah,
I
so
love
we're
this. I love the Spasmatics. I love what you guys are doing. And so but Texas in general, maybe just a little more lenience. I mean, we see the World Series got played there in Arlington and fans were there. It looks like something that a little bit of shred of normalcy. So maybe a little more leniency going on in Texas. That
yeah,
sounds good to me.
it's just spots, like there's just a few for a gig to happen, everything's got to be perfect. So there's each city has like 2 places, that someone can play.
Right.
So and then we had a few places that were a little more on the outlaw side. A couple places we played that were maybe an hour west of San Antonio, and it was just like full freedom for a few months, and then it went totally back to complete
Well,
lockdown.
yeah, and we just so much uncertainty. We just don't know. But I tell you what, unfortunately, one thing we do know: we're 3 weeks into the following the death of Eddie Van Halen. 3 weeks ago on October 6th, he passed away. And I mean, I think of all the deaths, this one really shook probably me and a lot of people in the rock world the hardest. It's been a tough 5 years in general. It happens. You start losing your heroes at some point, and it's a sobering thought. But whenever you kind of first heard the news, kind of what was your initial sort of reaction to that, and kind of what was the influence that Eddie had on you, which is obviously profound?
Well, I was definitely in shock for a couple hours. It was one of those kind of like you have to keep looking stuff up and making sure it's true, because you're thinking, okay, maybe this is, but there's been rumors for so many years about his health, cancer things, so and no one seems to know. So it only took about really 5 minutes before I knew it was true, and it was just like then there's just a numbness for probably that whole day.
Did you ever meet Eddie?
Yeah, I met him just one time when Dave went back to Van Halen in the end of '07. They rented out the Forum for 10 days and they rehearsed at the LA Forum, did full. And I went to a couple of the rehearsals and met Eddie, and it was pretty cool. It was like one of those. Sooner or later, I was thinking maybe it happened. It was kind of a neat moment, got to shake hands with him. And I remember when I shook his hand, I immediately went, wow, you could feel how huge his hand is and how it felt like it's made out of lead. And I could just hear his tone and that tapping. And I thought, oh, there you go. That's why all these guys try to make their amp sound like Ed's. It's like literally his fingers and his hands were so big and so powerful that it's in the fingers. His most, like he can probably plug into anything and sound like Ed.
Well, I want to talk about, of course, the Atomic Punks and playing with Dave, but as a fan, as just somebody growing up emulating this style, how many times would you say you saw Van Halen over the years? I know you grew up in California, and they were, they come up in the late '70s there playing backyard parties and had the gig at Gazzari's for all that time, the house band at Gazzari's. I'm sure at some point you came across
my time. Yeah,
right.
I was 14 when the first album came out, so I never saw him in those club days. I only saw him twice in the early days with Dave. And one of the shows I was at the US Festival. So I was at that show.
That's a famous one there. That's a good one.
And then I saw them with Sammy at that Monsters of Rock thing a couple years later after Dave left. And then Then I saw him one more time with Sammy on that reunion tour in 2004, I think it was, while I was playing with Dave. And then I saw them a bunch of times when Dave went back, because Dave would put me on the guest list and stuff. So I got to see him at Staples Center and at Dallas, and Dallas, wherever that place they played in Dallas. And I saw him at Madison Square Garden. And I got to go to a couple of rehearsals also. So I saw him a bunch of times on the reunion tour, two rehearsals and three shows. And Madison Square Garden was definitely pretty cool, to go backstage at Van Halen at Madison Square Garden. That's kind of one of those. I never got to play there, but that's one of those places like, the song remains the same, Led Zeppelin. It's the bucket list place to play. So
I'm so glad they got to have those 3 tours in 7, 12, and 15 for Eddie's sake, because, the late 90s, early 2000s were rough, for him personally and a lot of things. But to have that reunion tour with Sammy and then to do those 3, at least, fans, I think, can walk away with it, and with some of the greatest guitar work ever put to record. So I'm trying to put together a timeline here on something, because I think I got a kind of a crazy connection. What years were you in the Atomic Punks?
I joined in 1999, and then I got in the Dave band in April of 2002. So 99, 2000, 2001. And then a little of 2002. And when I joined Dave, I still played a few more shows with the Punks, but not too many, because finally I got replaced.
So the crazy connection that I thought I have, I do in fact have, as the timeline sort of stretches out. So you guys, Atomic Punks did like an amphitheater tour in 01, I believe.
No.
Summer of 01.
No, because I was already out of the band when they did that. Are you talking about when they went around the country and played a bunch of amphitheaters?
Yeah, I was thinking that was the 01, and then 02, you were back in the same amphitheater with Dave, but
no, I was already out of the band, and I think Russ Parrish was playing guitar with the Punks when they did those shows.
That's right. I wasn't sure if it was you or Russ at that. So okay, that must have been it. That's crazy though to think, and then because I think back to the Sam and Dave tour, because there was a lot of hoopla for that. And I was pumped, as a fan. I thought it was a spectacle. I thought it was great here in Kansas City. You guys closed, the David Lee Roth band closed the show. I absolutely loved it. I know, in hindsight, people do talk about how, kind of crazy it was and some of the things that went on, but what was that like for you? Because as I understand it, Dave just kind of plucked you from the Atomic Punks, and before you know it, you're in David Lee Roth's band.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. From the time I got hired by Dave to the Sam tour was, I got the gig. Honestly, man, I can't remember exactly when the phone call came. It might've been March or April of 2002, but the tour with Sammy started May 29th, I think. So by May 29th, I had already done a lot of rehearsing with Dave, a bunch of radio shows. We did 10 radio shows before the tour. I got hired, started here, and originally it was for 2 shows. They had it had to be before March, because my first show with Dave was the Atlanta Midtown Music Festival, and the date of that show was, I'm pretty sure it was in March. So I might have got called in February to get the gig, because they said they had 2 festivals booked. They had this thing in Atlanta in March, and then they had some other festival in June. And so originally I was hired for 2 gigs. And then within a few weeks of rehearsing, that's when Matt Cincio, the manager, called me up and said, hey, we're going to go on tour with Sammy Hagar. So my 2 gigs turned into that whole summer. And then it went to 6 years. But originally I was only offered 2 shows, but I figured it was going to turn into more, so I played that Atlanta show, and then there was some time off, and then we went on the Sammy tour. So before the Sammy tour, we did a bunch of acoustic rehearsals, and then we did a thing called the Radio Rodeo, where we got in the tour bus. We were heading to Cleveland. Our first show was in Cleveland for the Dave and Sam tour. And so we hit a city at 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we started like Monday, I think it was in Fresno. Fresno. We did a morning show, acoustic guitars, all this stuff, playing music, having fun. Then the next day, then Tuesday we did KLOS in LA. Then the next day we did Las Vegas, and then we did Phoenix, Arizona, and then we did Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all acoustic. We were going to bed at 9 o'clock, getting up at 4 a.m, being on the radio at 6 a.m. Then we had Saturday, Sunday off, and then we continued. I think we might have done Kansas City. We did another Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We did like Kansas City, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, morning radio shows. So we did 10 radio shows on our way to Cleveland. Then we were in Cleveland for like 4 or 5 days, and we did. They rented out some like a college amphitheater or something. We did like 1 or 2 rehearsals with the full production, with Sammy Hagar band, just like a real show. We did the full like dress rehearsal type show. They had all the video gear and they were testing everything out. And it was like a 10,000 seat place, but it was just empty, And Dave didn't do the rehearsals. So we did the rehearsals without Dave. But Sammy did his full show with the band and the whole thing. And then we started the tour in Cleveland. And the funny thing is that we played Cleveland, and then I think Chicago and Detroit and Indianapolis. We started going, and somewhere about 2 weeks into the tour, we were playing the song "Everybody Wants Some," and in the middle of the song, I'm by the drummer, and Dave walks up to the front of the stage, and he's doing the old "I like the way the line runs at the back of your stocking" line, and that's the first time I looked over at Dave and the big audience out there, and I went, "I'm playing with David Lee Roth." That's how many months it took me for it to kind of hit me, because it was such a blur, and all this rehearsals and learning all this stuff, and I had no time to think about it. It wasn't until we had been on tour for like a week and a half that it suddenly hit me. I'm touring with David Lee Roth right now. Like, this is great, So that was kind of funny. That was that moment of finally realizing it's like this childhood dream thing happening,
Well, the band was incredible. This was James Lomenzo, Ray Luzier. You guys were. This was probably, if I had to, think about it, my second favorite incarnation of the band. Of course, we've had Billy Sheehan on this show. Eat 'Em and Smile was so tremendous, but you guys, I thought, did tremendous, carried it, and the show was great. What was the tour like for you? Was it a lot of fun? Was it a lot of pressure? For you, someone that had been around Hollywood and been around and played with some great artists, this was, it was a giant leap for you. You were a well-established player, but what was it like for you personally? Was it a lot of fun, or was there kind of some?
It was a lot of fun. I didn't feel any pressure, because I'd been with the Punks for 3 years, and I played all those songs a million times. So I could never have been more prepared to play those songs with Dave. If I had because when I got the Punks gig, I was actually more under pressure and nervous then, because at the time I had to learn. I had like 9 days to learn 17 Van Halen songs, and I already knew bits and pieces, but I had never really sat down and learned them all the way through, and every little, and I was going in to fill the shoes of a guy who had been doing it for 5 years. They had a fan base. And so I remember my first show. I don't get nervous very often in my life, but I remember my mouth being really dry on stage in the first, because I remember thinking everyone's out there staring at me with their arms folded going, okay, who's this guy? And I just barely I can't remember how many rehearsals. I don't even think we did maybe 1 or 2, I think 1 or 2 rehearsals. I had to learn all the stuff at home, do a couple rehearsals, and start playing. But as we went on and on, the stuff became more consistent. We learned more and more songs. I ended up knowing like 40 songs. The Punks repertoire was about 40 Van Halen songs. And so by the time I had auditioned for Dave, I'd been playing this stuff for 3 years now. So I had no nervousness at all when I auditioned in front of Dave. I stared him right in the face. I remember thinking, I'm gonna stare him down and go, I'm badass. And he was cool, because I was, like I said, if I didn't have that 3 years, I would have probably been nervous to audition for Dave, because I would have had to learn all these songs in 2 days, And so it was, like I said, you couldn't be more prepared than playing with the Punks for 3 years.
Did you guys have to kind of get him up to speed? He didn't do a ton of solo shows for kind of prior to that. Did you guys have to get him up to speed?
No, because once again, the entire couple months when I joined the David Lee Roth band, me and Ray and James would rehearse Monday through Friday every day. I don't know, 3 or 4 hours a day. And Ray and James already knew the whole show. They had already been playing with Dave for a while. So they were teaching me the ending of the songs and how their arrangements and what kind of stuff goes on. And Dave would just pop in once a week, maybe sing 2 songs, talk to us about this and that. We'd hang out for a while, and that would be it. So I never even played all the songs with Dave until the very first show. The first time I played And I still remember before the show, I asked Ray, I go, am I allowed to stand next to Dave on stage? I don't even know. I have no idea what the deal is. And Ray just goes, well, just don't get too close because sometimes he swings the microphone around and you don't want to get hit. So I just I literally, the first time I played all the songs with Dave was on stage in front of 15,000 or 30,000 people at the first show.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to be careful there. He's hurt himself enough times with implements and swords and things like that. So you don't want to get in those crosshairs.
I was there the night that he cut his eye open or sliced his head open with that baton stick thing. It was in I can't remember exactly where it was, maybe Philadelphia or something. It's in one of those most rock and roll moments, countdowns. It's talks about it.
Yeah, I want to say that was in the 88. It was the Skyscraper tour, maybe.
No, that's with me. It was
that happened. Well, it's happened so many times.
Yeah,
Ryan, it's happened so many times.
We were playing, and when we do jump, he grabs that big old pole and does all that stuff with the pole every night. But we all run off the stage. Me and James and Toshi would like run off and go behind our amps and hide in case that thing came flying out of his hand. So that was the way we did every night. Let me get to that keyboard part of jump. We'd all run behind the amps, and Dave would do all that stuff, and then he would come back out. So, and that was our last song of the night. So Dave's doing the baton. We're all hiding behind the amps. Dave finishes. We walk back out. We finish the song Jump, and we all go to the front of the stage to do a bow. And I didn't even notice because I hadn't really been looking at Dave. But when we did the bow, I saw blood dripping on the floor, and I'm like, and I knew it was coming from Dave. I didn't know what happened, but it was literally just dripping. There was enough to where it was coming out, in big drips. And we walked off stage, and they had already had a towel on him. And we drove straight. We hopped on the tour bus and went straight to the hospital. And Dave went in there, got stitches, and he got right over his eye, it's like 12 stitches. Yeah.
So rock and roll, Brian. So we've talked a little bit about the Van Halen influence, but growing up in Southern California as you did, and you're kind of on the younger side. So what were the?
I'm 56.
What's that?
I'm 56.
Well, that's still on the younger side, my man. Okay.
Hey,
so you're right. Your prime age for the Sunset bands that was your heyday. So when did you graduate high school? Like in mid 80s, obviously.
82.
Yeah. Okay. But it was you weren't a kid, so you were a young adult as that scene was.
I missed a little bit of the good stuff,
right?
But during the 80s, there was definitely a big scene in LA, and I moved to Hollywood in 83. So I lived in, I got to, all the club days and all that stuff and play all them clubs back in the day. It was definitely a fun time to be in Hollywood, 83, 84, 85. Yeah.
But yeah, you're on the younger side. You think about, God bless, Alice Cooper and Sammy Hagar, guys that are, 70 in their early 70s now. And still, you worked with Sammy, you worked with Paul Stanley and studios. Just kind of talk about the studio side of things for you, because I know that's a big kind of part of your life, and at least was kind of what was some of the highlights there. I know. Did you do the work with Sammy before the tour, or did you kind of?
I worked with Sammy Hagar in like 1989.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I didn't even meet him. I just recorded guitar on a song, and then he sang on that song. It was Jesse Harms, who was Sammy's keyboard player. He used to hire me for session work a lot. And so just one of the sessions was with the song that Sammy wrote, and then I played guitar. Then later, Sammy came in the studio, sang on it, and then I got a copy. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. It's called Dangerous Curves. Just type in Sammy Hagar Dangerous Curves demo, and it's just a demo. It never got released.
I was going to say that sounded familiar, and I remember. Yeah, that was I don't have it in front of me. That album, the one where he's jumping in the air on the beach. I think that was the one that it didn't get on that album. I think that was Learn to. Yeah, but that was the era. That was the time, because it was still while he was still in Van Halen. So yeah. Well, man, I tell you, it's just so cool going down memory lane with you, because I vividly remember, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure that I saw the Atomic Punks and that David, the DLR and Hagar show in the same summer. So that's why that it stands out, because in my hazy memory, I thought maybe that could have been one year you there with 100 people in the crowd, and then you there with 15,000, but that was the same summer. And I think Satchel Russ Parrish from Steel Panther was in the Punks then. So just
Yeah.
all sorts of crazy stuff, man. Thanks so much for hopping on, man, and kind of talking about this. I hadn't had a chance to really interview anyone or talk about anyone specifically with regards to the death of Eddie Van Halen. And you are someone that is such an accomplished guitarist in your own right. And there was a, kind of a connection there. So wanted to make it happen. And I appreciate you, man, so much. And I hope everybody checks out the Spasmatics, because you guys are awesome. And when I get down to, Texas again, maybe sometime this spring or summer, I'm going to definitely come check you guys out. So where's a good place to check you guys out? The Spasmatics, I know, on Facebook. What's some of the best places to check you guys out?
As far as clubs mean?
Or online, social media.
Yeah, thespasmatics.net. But, just go to our Facebook page. Our website's been, basically, I haven't been upkeeping the website too much because our gigs have been getting canceled, so many things that I kind of love. So we basically do everything on Facebook. So just the Austin Spasmatics, Texas, or Austin.
Because there is another Spasmatics, and I just looked it up. There is another Spasmatics, but let's just say that you'll know which one you're finding. You'll know which one you're looking for.
It's kind of a franchise like Blue Man Group. There's one. There's a Vegas, a Chicago. There's different cities. Just we're the Texas Spasmatics.
Texas. Hey, Brian, thanks so much for hopping on, man. You're the best. We'll definitely come check you guys out here sometime, hopefully the spring and summer. Best of luck in everything you guys are doing. You guys are awesome. Great. Thanks so much, brother.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
You bet.